Um, I started off by commending you for the work in apprehending the suspects in the bombing. I'm now going to give you, well, I'm telling you, which you probably already know, that there's a lot of praise coming your way for the stance that you have taken in relation to addressing the issue of sexual and other misbehaviors by senior people within the joint services. You coming into this male dominated domain, what has given you the spunks or the encouragement to address this issue, grab the bull by the horn?
I believe that we have these laws for a reason. A lot of it is the cry of the people. You know, young women ought to be able to live happy, fulfilled lives in any career. And especially in a male dominated profession, they ought to feel that they're able to realize their full potential. And you know, it's not only young women; young men too are subject to sexual victimization. And so, I will say that I've come into this position with a no tolerance approach to criminal behavior, especially where it derails young people, because they are our future. They're the ones that are our future leaders. And when they are damaged, they can't grow. There's dysfunction in the society. And as the Minister of Home Affairs, I would like our young women, especially, to know that they have a place, a safe space that they can come to in the Minister of Home Affairs. If they have an issue in the agencies under which are my purview, um, I've sat on the bench. I've been part of administering the law on that end in terms of enforcement, and I've seen how um, the law and the implementation and enforcement of our law, especially it relates to things like domestic violence and violence against the person, that when people feel that they have recourse, that it's such a rehabilitative effect on not only the individual but on communities as well. So people have got to know that we are not going to tolerate criminal behavior across the board. And the sexual offenses, it seems, it's an issue that has come up, but there are other criminal behavior as well that is going to be that there is a no tolerance approach for.
So if you're watching us, this is Focus. I'm having a conversation with Minister of Home Affairs, Oneidge Walrond. And if you missed it, the minister's just clarified and assured members of the joint services that if you have issues, difficulties where those above you might be operating in an inappropriate manner, our door is open for you. Minister, what
Absolutely.
mechanisms are in place to report and control? What control and reporting mechanisms are in place for persons who may feel that if they approach you, there will be retaliation or victimization by those very persons above them?
That has always been the one of the major reasons why women or victims don't feel that they can come forward. The retaliation that they imagine. I would say that there is power in your story, that there are more people with you than you would imagine. There are more male allies than you would imagine. That it is oftentimes a fallacy we that they are not, or leaders even within the police force, who are not there rooting for you. And the victimization in terms of stepping out with your story, that will not be tolerated. But when a woman or a victim steps forward and makes herself vulnerable and open, it behoves the leadership, and it starts with myself, to provide a safe space for that young person, that person, to be able to get back on their feet, because it is a traumatic experience most time. Even the coming out, especially in a society that talks a lot about you, and you feel vulnerable and exposed. That to provide that cover for that young woman. So there's not going to be a case contemplated, a case where she or he comes out and speaks, and you leave them to their own devices. You make sure that there's a transition period in the job, in the environment in which he or she is working, that is safe, and to provide that. And so that's always been the thing with victims, is that you don't just leave them. You provide the opportunity for them to get back on their feet, and you make sure that you do so, that wherever it is that they are placed, it's safe, and they constantly feel that they are being protected as they grow stronger. So what I'm saying is that a victim will not be left to his or her devices when she goes back to send her. Let's say she comes from an office where she feels that she's been has been taken advantage of, victimized, and you send her back to that office and say, well, you left a fend for yourself. That is not the way that we treat with victims. We give them space and a place for them where they feel that they can thrive. And it often means moving them on, or keeping the counseling and the support that is needed for them to thrive, to get back on their feet, and to continue to be fulfilled.
What about situations where a victim might believe that they're in a situation, or they're in that situation where they cannot move? How does how do you believe that it is time for us to have a system in place where we can do spotting? So where we look, we identify, we assess, and if you feel that somebody is in this environment under this command, that they might be trapped or something, is there a system that you believe we should have in place to deal specifically with that?
You remember, Leroy, that we can't, I believe we tread a very dangerous line if we go about trying to scope about as a moral police.
Okay.
Um, we have to create the environment where a victim feels that they're empowered, so they understand that there is no presumption of consent if you are your superior, the person who is in power over you, ask you to be in a relationship. And so if she comes out and say, I was the only reason I consented to this, because that's the argument that the man would usually make. If I consent, if the relationship, I only felt I needed to consent to this, I consented to this because I was afraid that I wouldn't get this promotion, or was afraid what he may do to me in terms I'm due for a pay raise, and so I wouldn't get it if I didn't consent. But ordinarily I would not consent to this relationship. If she is willing to step forward and make this complaint, then we can pursue that criminally. But we are not going to try to scout around and look and see who may be in a relationship. No, that is not the intention. The intention is that the person can know that when first of all, those who are in position of power should know that the consent and that dynamic is not permissible, can elevate to criminal behavior. So this is apart from police discipline and the whole fact of it being, it's not, the idea that is improper. So you're moving from the improper to criminal behavior, where the woman is being taken advantage of. And so what we're letting those in power know is that it's criminal behavior to bully a young woman to have a relationship, because she can claim, as long as she says that I only did this because I felt that I was going to be exposed. I felt that I was not going to get the ahead in my job. I felt like a victim. Then that exposes him to criminal conduct. So we letting those know that you shouldn't be engaged in this behavior as much as you want to claim that there is consent. If the woman says that it was not consensual because of these reasons, then it's criminal. But we're not policing who may want to have a relationship with whom. It's not that. The threshold is the woman making the complaint.
Okay, and I'm glad that you spoke of the issue of consent and so on. The Police Act, and I have it here so that I quote correctly. The Police Discipline Act, Section 4D7 says that a person conducts himself in a discreditable manner to the force if they act in any manner likely to bring discredit to the reputation of the force. And by that, it simply means that if you do something that causes the force to be embarrassed or brings the force into disrepute and so on, then you are guilty under this section. I brought with me here, for your perusal, some photos which are in circulation on social media. And this is of a deputy commissioner minister.
Well, you don't want to be accused of publishing
No,
this.
we will not
So,
publish this, but
yes.
for your viewing, and this is a police officer here. This is bringing, or may consider to be bringing discredit to the force, given the position of the officer and what is already being said there in the public's domain. So how do we address these? Something like this.
I am not familiar. I don't know what the relationship might be with him and the young woman. I don't know anything about their interpersonal relationship. So this is new to me, as you just presented it to me.
Yeah,
So
I appreciate it. I
yes,
can appreciate it.
yeah. So I'm sure if it is that we have a complaint from the young woman, then we certainly can treat with it.
But the issue of ethics
Yes,
and
as you
bringing the
mentioned,
force into,
bringing the
yes,
force into disrepute. Like I said, there are so many prongs to this. So you have the prong, if it is that it's a subordinate officer, female subordinate officer that is engaging with that behavior, and you said, and she comes out and it is made public, but we have to make sure that we are not victimizing her again. That these pictures are not published and she is embarrassed that she herself wants to do this. It may be immoral for him to have that relationship, but the threshold for criminal behavior is where she herself makes that complaint. So she may not want to.
Minister, without the report of the young lady, for whatever reasons, if she doesn't come forward, the issue of discipline, this falls under the Police Discipline Act, the act here
Yes,
that
yes.
we see in this image.
And it's for the commissioner to assess the entire situation, and it's for the commissioner to make that assessment after doing his relevant investigations with the deputy commissioner. I believe that lies with the commissioner to make his judgment call as a result.